Welcome to the Marxist Perspective. This one should need no introduction, for these are the words of Karl Marx. The history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggles. Freeman and slave, patrician and plebeian, lord and serf, guildmaster and journeyman, in a word, oppressor and oppressed, stood in constant opposition to one another, carried on an uninterrupted, now hidden, now open fight, a fight that each time ended either in a revolutionary reconstitution of society at large or in the common ruin of the contending classes. In modern bourgeois society that has sprouted from the ruins of feudal society has not done away with the class antagonisms. It has established new classes, new conditions of oppression, new forms of struggle in place of the old ones. Our epoch, the epoch of the bourgeois, possesses, however, this distinctive feature. It is simplified class antagonism. Society as a whole is more and more splitting up into two great hostile camps, into two great classes directly facing each other, the bourgeois and the proletariat. Modern industry has established the world market for which the discovery of America paved the way. This market has given an immense development to commerce, to navigation, to communication by land. This development has, in its time, reacted on the extension of industry, and in proportion to industry, commerce, navigation, railways extended. In the same proportion, the bourgeois developed, increased its capital, and pushed into the background of every class handed down from the Middle Ages. We see, therefore, how the modern bourgeois is itself the product of a long course of development, of a series of revolutions in the modes of production and of exchange. Each step in the development of the bourgeois was accompanied by a corresponding political advance of that class, an oppressed class under the sway of the feudal nobility, an armed and self-governing association in the medieval commune, here independent urban republic as in Italy and Germany, their taxable third estate of the monarchy as in France. Afterwards, in the period of manufacture proper, serving either the semi-feudal or the absolute monarchy as a counterpoise against the nobility. In fact, cornerstone of the great monarchies in general, the bourgeois has at last, since the establishment of modern industry and of the world market, conquered for itself in the modern representative state inclusive or exclusive political sway. The executive of the modern state is but a committee for managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeois. The bourgeois historically has played a most revolutionary part. It has resolved personal worth into exchange value, and in place of the numberless and feasible chartered freedoms has set up that single unconscionable freedom, free trade. In one word, for exploitation veiled by religious and political illusions, naked, shameless, direct, brutal exploitation. The bourgeois has stripped off its halo of every occupation hitherto honored and looked upon with reverence and awe. It has converted the physician, the lawyer, the priest, the poet, the man of science into its paid wage laborers. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products chases the bourgeois over the whole surface of the globe. It must nestle everywhere, settle everywhere, establish connections everywhere. The bourgeois has, through its exploitation of the world market, giving a cosmopolitan character to production and consumption in every country. To the great chagrin of reactionists, it is drawn from under the feet of industry, the national ground on which it stood. All old established national industries have been destroyed or are daily being destroyed. They are dislodged by new industries whose introduction becomes a life and death question for all civilized nations. By industries that no longer work up indigenous raw material, but raw material drawn from the remotest zones. Industries whose products are consumed not only at home, but in every corner of the globe. In place of the old wants satisfied by the productions of the country, we find new wants, requiring for their satisfaction the products of distant lands and climes. In place of the old locale and national seclusion and self-sufficiency, we have intercourse in every direction, universal interdependence of nations, and as in material, so also in intellectual production. The intellectual creations of individual nations become common property. National one-sidedness and narrow-mindedness become more and more impossible. And from the more numerous national and local literatures, there arise a world literature. The bourgeois, by the rapid improvement of all instruments of production, by the immensely facilitated means of communication, draws all, even the most barbarian nations, into civilization. The cheap prices of its commodities are the heavy artillery in which it batters down all Chinese walls, in which it forces the barbarians' intensely obstinate hatred of foreigners to capitulate. It compels all nations, on pain of extinction, to adopt the bourgeois mode of production. It compels them to introduce what it calls civilization into their midst, i.e., to become bourgeois themselves. In one word, it creates a world after its own image. It homogenizes everything. I think it's what that says. And ironically, that Marx was able to see this then almost as if he had a window into our world today, where things are really, whether it be wealth, the education system, whatever it is, everything's concentrating, and choices are few.